Hi guys, Trains on Tuesday. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about operations on the Highland Valley Railway. My trains don't just go round and round and round. My trains are more in tune with the real world. They start somewhere, they go somewhere, they have a purpose. That might explain why I'm a little bit slow in, doing the scenic work and that sort of thing. I'm more interested in operating trains. So where you see styrofoam and bare areas, I see grass, I see trees, I see mountains, that sort of thing, and I can deal with that. But slowly I am getting some of that work done. So operations on the Highland Valley. Long and complicated history to this. I have a friend who has a railway. It's been in operation for 25 years or more, and he operates with a computer system that prints out operating sheets, and it takes 4 guys 2 hours out, 2 hours back to run the train around his layout, doing pickups and drop-offs according to the computer printout. So I'm following that a little bit. The biggest problem with that is that the computer keeps track of where the cars are. And so you can't play with it in between sessions. Typically, he would run 4 operating sessions per year, and in the meantime, in between, he can't really touch anything. Otherwise, the computer loses track of where cars are, and the operating session wouldn't work. But I've adopted that somewhat, and in that process, I have printed myself a copy of the AAR codes. For those of you who don't know, that's American Association of Railroads. They have coding for each type of railway car on the tracks. It says, the code is there, and it says what the car is and what it's used for. So I've done that. I've adopted that, and Highland Valley, it's in this book, all of that stuff. So in here I have the reporting marks, so who owns the car, and its number, and its type. These are grain hoppers, or hoppers, covered hoppers, and there's pages of them, all listed there, each with its own individual number. And I'll show you what I mean for those of you that may not know. This is a reporting mark. This one's MRL, which is Montana Rail Link. They own the car, and a number. And this particular car is a GB, a gondola. So, on my layout, I have an awful lot of sidings. I'm going to start to show you this now. There are sidings here, sidings back in there between the buildings, sidings over there. There's a little siding over here that feeds those 2 buildings, those 2 industries there, and so on throughout the layout. So, each of those industries has a need in terms of railway cars. So those railway cars come from somewhere and they go to somewhere. So let's take a look at one particular area, or a couple of areas, that we're going to run a train on today, and show you what I mean. So out here I have my prairie branch line, and of course the prairies produce a lot of grain, so you'll see a lot of grain cars out here, just as you can see now. and this little branch line runs down here to this little town here. Another grain elevator sitting there, and it runs on through and joins the main line. So that's the branch line, producing an awful lot of grain traffic. It's not the only thing that moves around here, but an awful lot of grain traffic. So what happens? This is the train I made up today by switching cars from the sidings here, and it's ready to go. So we're going to follow this train in a little bit and watch its journey from the prairies here to the dock scene. Not much of a dock scene at the moment, but at least we have an elevator there, and it has grain cars. So cars at the prairie are being loaded with grain, and the train has to make its way to here for unloading. These cars here might be unloaded, and they have to make their way back to the prairie for reloading. So let's take a look at the rest of the layout and see how this works. Okay, as the train exits the branch line and joins the main lines, it will then travel 5 times around the loop, 5 times around the layout, in order to arrive at the freight yard over there. So that's its first destination, is to get to that freight yard. From there, the train is switched. There are industries within the town that use some grain, so some cars will be assigned to there. But other than that, they will be switched into another train that is going to do 5 times around the loop again before making its way up the line here at the back and away off in behind the mountain to come out on that yard. So once it arrives at that yard, it is switched into there, and then again the train is broken up and made up into perhaps a smaller train that will make its way down to the dock area down at the end there. So that's following one train. In my operating sessions here, we normally have 4 operators. The layout is set up for 4 different operators, and one operator will be preparing that train to move through there. Another operator at the other end of that system will be clearing the tracks up there and creating another train to make its way back the other way, back up to the prairies. In the meantime, down in this industrial area, and working off this cab down here, we'll have another operator making up a train from these industries, which will be going out to the yard. Then it will be run around the layout 5 times before going off either up into that area there, or back out into the prairie, or to the coal mine, or somewhere else like that. And on the other 2 cabs, the main 2 cabs, we have the other operations on the layout, which is switching the main yard and other industries back there, the intermodal area down there. That all gets switched by these other 2 cabs, and of course from time to time we run passenger as well. So in order to have a session like that and not have it chaos, we go right back to what I said at the beginning. Jerry's computer system. Like I say, I don't put mine in a computer. I start right at the beginning, and here we go. Train orders. This is what I do. I write them all out. Train orders for cab 2, train number 1. On this particular operation, cab 2 ended up having 2 trains, so that's why we ended up with train 1, train 2. So there's his orders, and he does his bit, finds the cars, picks them up, puts them in the train, switches them around, does whatever is necessary on the train orders, and then runs the train out to the to the changeover point to a different cab, and he hands these instructions to the guy that's running the next section. So he then turns this over and he has his instructions for completing the movements of that train. And this is happening 4 times over throughout the layout. So an operating session does get very, very busy. It's a lot of fun. Okay, let's go follow that train and see where that goes in order to arrive at the grain terminal. Here we go. Okay, our train has been switched into its operating order, and away it goes, making its way down the line, down the Prairie branch line. So there he is. He's arrived now at the town of Michelle, and this is where he hands over. This is a crew change point, and so the train gets handed over to a different crew. So we run into our first bit of excitement here. The second crew picks up the train, and they run down, ready to meet the main line. The problem is, they've got to run down this line here, and that line's currently occupied by another train. Okay, so here's the process. As the other train comes along, and as he clears the operating blocks, which are right in here, as he clears those blocks, we switch them to the other cab. We line our turnouts. And that one. And away goes our train. So these two trains are now running towards each other. Well, that one didn't like that. And I don't know why. Okay, so these guys are running towards each other on the same track. Now that one has cleared block 2, so we'll put that back to the other train. And there it goes down there, and it'll run through the switch over. And as that does that, we bring the blocks back onto the other controller, get the turnouts, just in time for this one to come up and carry on undisturbed. So here's our train. We'll say that he's made his 5 trips around, and he's now arrived at the yard. I'm not going to show you him going around 5 times. But he has now arrived at the yard. So here we cut the power off. Move that onto a block there and isolate it. So now we pick up another loco from the motive power depot, and he makes his way along to the other end of the train. And he is going to take the train around another 5 loops around the track. We won't show that either, but that's what he would do in an operating session, and then he'll run it off into the next section. So here we go. We're going to hold him there for a moment till the other train clears, and then we'll run him out into the next section. Okay, so as our continuous running train clears these turnouts, we'll get them aligned, that one and that one, and we should be able to continue with our train now. So we need that one, we need that one. I think we have the block set. We'll find out quickly if it stalls out. So that train is now crossing the track that the other train is continuously running on. We'll imagine that it went round 5 times and it's now heading off up to the other yard. Okay, as he gets clear of those turnouts, we put the track back onto the other power, and away he goes. We'll pick him up on the other end. So here we go, we're up to the next cab, and here comes our train. And normally this train would run into the yard and be switched by the little switcher engine, but I think we're already running quite long on this video, so we're going to carry on through. So there we go. There's our train arriving at the dockyard and the train terminal. So the next move would be to pick up the empty cars there and move those out in the train all the way back to the prairie. And Then the switcher will move the loaded cars in as well to be unloaded at the grain terminal. So that's just one train from Prairie to docks. As I say, there would be an opposite movement, train going back the other way, as well as other trains from the other industries and other areas. The coal mine, which I'm sure many of you have seen many times, it operates trains in and out of there, loads out, and they come up here to the dockyard as well, and then empties go back again. So as you can see, operations on the Highland Valley are quite intense, really busy, and an awful lot of fun. The operating group that I have, that I'm part of, we haven't met in almost a year now. We have 4 different layouts that we go to, and we operate on the same system on 4 different layouts. But as I say, we haven't met for almost a year, and I think it will be October or November this year before we are able to get back together. So that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a like. Please comment. As you know, I love your comments. I respond to everyone. And we'll see you again another time for Trains on Tuesday. Bye.